Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, we'll go ahead and get the meeting started here for the TAC funding and programming meeting on December 21st. First up is the roll call, and we'll hold off and do that as we approve the minutes. So first, do we have any changes to the proposed agenda? All right, seeing none, we will move next to the approval of the September 21st minutes. Any discussion on this item? If not, we'll need a motion and a second.
Elaine Kutsukos makes motion to approve the minutes.
Brown seconds.
All right, thank you, Elaine. And then Colleen Brown seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or nay via roll call. I'll turn it over to Bradley. Bradley, I think you're on mute. I guess my question is it you or Robbie that will take the role here? All right, Robbie, are you on?
Yes.
Okay, do you have the
Roll?
The role where you can take a vote?
Yeah, pull that up.
Looks like Bradley's probably having some technical difficulty.
I can hear you all now. Sorry about that.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Brad, you're back with us here?
Yes. And I was just going through to make sure we're at a quorum, but I think we should be good.
Okay, well, that's good because we made a motion and a second on the minutes. So I'm just turning it over to staff. Either you or Robbie want to go through and take the vote and also take roll.
All right. Hang on a second here. Okay. Anoka County, JOG?
OJI.
Carver County?
Here in Milky, aye.
Thank you. Dakota County? Dakota County? On Dakota. Hennepin County?
Jason Piper, aye.
Thank you, Jason. Ramsey County? Do we have a new member for Ramsey County?
I am not sure of that at this time.
All right. That was Scott. So
yeah, I don't know if Brian's appointed a new person or not.
Okay. Scott County.
Adam Jessen, aye.
You. Washington County.
Maddie Dahlheimer, aye.
Bloomington.
Carl Keel, and I will abstain. I was not at the meeting.
Thanks. Eden Prairie.
Robert Ellis, aye.
Ridley.
Jim Katlucher, aye.
Thank you, Jim. Lakeville. We have Paul on the call. Follow me. Okay. Maple Grove, Ken Ashfeld.
So Ken is no longer on the committee. He recently retired.
Right.
And
Yeah, and actually, that spot is really not on the committee at this moment because his replacement was put onto planning. So there's really one less member on funding and programming.
all right, thanks for that explanation, Joe.
Okay. Minneapolis Engineering.
Nathan Coster, and abstain from the minute. I was not in attendance.
Got it. Thank you. Plymouth.
Michael Thompson, aye.
St. Paul Engineering.
Weber, aye.
Metro Transit.
Noyak, aye.
Scott. Suburban Transit.
Scholl, aye.
ID. DNR. We have Nancy on the call. Hearing none. MnDOT Bike and Ped.
Mike Samuelson, aye.
Mike. MnDOT Metro District.
Tag, aye.
MnDOT State Aid.
Colleen Brown, aye.
MPCA. We have Innocent on the call. Hearing none there. Met Council MTS. Cole.
Cole Henniker, aye.
Cole. And Tab Coordinator, Elaine.
Aye.
Okay, chair motion passes, and we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you, Bradley. Next item of business is public comment. Did we have any members of the public want to speak, or?
We did not receive any requests, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is the TAB report. I'll turn it over to you, Elaine.
Thank you, Chair. TAB met yesterday afternoon. For the Chair's report, Hovland reported on the Metro Council Governance Task Force. They are holding listening sessions throughout the region, and they are considering should the structure of the Metropolitan Council change, and if so, how. Hovland also recognized outgoing TAB members and alternates, Matt Hollinshead, Randy Malichnik, Mitra Jalali, and then alternates Stephanie Alexandra and Evan Rowe. Hovland requested TAB members to indicate by the end of December if they are interested in serving on the TAB Executive Committee in 2024. And then also at the TAB Executive Committee that met prior to TAB, there was discussion on the formation of a policy work group for the next regional solicitation. Presentation will be made at the full TAB in January. There was also discussion on forming an active transportation subgroup made of TAB and TAC members to look at the legislation to determine what can and can't be done for projects under that legislation. For MnDOT report, Sheila Copley submitted a report that MnDOT is still in the process of formally announcing who the next district engineer will be. They are hopeful that the announcement will be made next week and that the individual will start mid-January. And then the position that April Crockett had at MnDOT Metro District has been posted, and that will close shortly after the start of the new year. In the interim, Brad Larson will be filling that role and supporting the Metro team. For the MPCA, Frank Kolash reported that they are currently taking comments for the Volkswagen settlement spending, and that's available till January 15th. With that plan, they will determine how to spend the final part of that settlement. They're reviewing submissions for the Climate Pollution Reduction Implementation Grant. For the MAC report, Carl Crimmins reported that this year, passengers projected to be at 92% of the 2019 level. In 2024, they are projecting 98%. Aer Lingus is returning in April with flights to Dublin. Lufthansa is coming back in June with flights to Frankfurt. And Sun Country has increased from 40 destinations a couple years ago to 98 destinations now. There is a new cell phone lot on Post Road with an additional 97 spaces. And the TNC, the Transportation Network Companies, has a new area for loading and unloading with 50 spaces. And then Terminal 2 will be adding 11 gates over the next 10 years, with 2 being added next year. The Metropolitan Council, Deb Barber reported on the TPP workgroup progress. Metro Transit is implementing programs for the Transportation Omnibus Bill and the Council Safety and Security Plan. A new code of conduct has been adopted. And Barbara recommended that the TAP members share the email about the Metropolitan Council's regional solicitation service to their networks. Met Council would like residents to be part of the decision-making on the transportation investment decisions in the next solicitation. And they'll taking responses to the budget exercise through January 31st. The Suburban Transit Association, Gary Hansen reported that demand for Maple Grove Transit, MyRide microtransit continues to grow. 2 reverse commute express trips in the AM and PM are being offered to help riders make first mile, last mile connections. Southwest Transit will have record prime microtransit ridership this year, expecting a 30% increase over last year. And their express service ridership has grown 18% from last year. Minnesota Valley Authority Connect Ride on Demand ridership continues to grow. And they also conducted a 2-week annual Stuff the Bus campaign. And over the 2-week period at multiple grocery stores in the service area, they had a record amount of food and cash donations. For business items, TAB approved 2 streamlined tip amendments made up of multiple items that went through TAC, adding new projects and also adjusting some of the projects in them. And they also approved the Metropolitan Airports Commission Capital Improvement Program that went through TAC planning. And then they had an information item on the carbon reduction toolkit that MnDOT is sharing with the MPOs across the state and getting some feedback by mid-year. And this toolkit can be used in some format by the MPOs for their selection of carbon reduction projects. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Elaine, for that report. Do we have any questions for Elaine? All right, seeing none. Thank you again, Elaine. We'll move to the next item. So that is business. We have 3 business items today. The first scope change is a request from South St. Paul for their Marie Avenue bicycle project. It appears a portion of the project was completed through a partnership with Dakota County, but we can turn it over to staff and then the applicant if they have anything they'd like to present.
Thank you, Chair. We have 3 scope changes, which is a pretty busy month for that kind of thing. Actually, a couple of them would have been ready earlier, but we have had canceled meetings lately. So this is the price we're paying. So this first one is a scope change request for South St. Paul's Marie Avenue bicycle project and pedestrian facility. The city of South St. Paul was awarded $1 million in carbon reduction program funds in the Safe Routes to School category in 2022. The application was awarded to reduce conflict points on Marie Avenue from 3rd Avenue to 9th Avenue and to improve non-motorized connectivity by upgrading sidewalks and improving ADA access and installing bike lanes. The county has already actually completed some of the improvements on 2nd Avenue and 7th Street during the completion of another project. So this sort of mirrors a lot of what we've been seeing in recent months regarding scope changes, where the city has decided they wanted to do complete a project, pieces of the project, and some other project for the sake of efficiency and stewardship. It's a little bit unusual that it's already happened. And we can talk about more whether people are concerned with that, but because this plays out the same, because this is a relatively minor portion of the request that's being moved, and all the Safe Routes to Schools project was funded anyway, and the entire project is being built, we didn't examine the scoring at all, and we assume that it would, we know it would have been funded, and we would recommend approval. Of course, the piece that we still are talking about as we work through the policy with another work group to start up again in the new year would be the funding amount. So the project removed, the piece of the project removed would come to about $306,000, where you take the 45% federal that the whole project is getting, that's about $136,242. Keep in mind, though, that history going back to the last several years shows that the retention of federal funds is typically approved when removed elements are being completed by another project, which is the case here. And that's really all I have. With that, I would stand for questions, and I believe we have representatives of the project here as well.
All right, thank you, Joe. I guess I would turn it over to any city representatives or their consultant staff or anybody that wants to speak on behalf of the applicant before we open it up for discussion. All right, I'm not seeing any hands.
Well, I guess, Michael, I can talk. Kevin Kelb from Bolton and Mank, working with the city of South St. Paul in this project. And, oh, Nick, you're on too. Nick, do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I was having a hard time unmuting. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Nothing really further to add. Really, I think staff outlined it pretty well. I mean, this piece of the project was removed and done in coordination with the new Dakota County Library. Those improvements were necessary sort of to facilitate the construction of that library with added parking and improvements to the road and things of that nature. So that's really was the change in the project was that, and I guess I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nick. All right, well, I will open it up to the committee for discussion on this item. Questions for the applicant or staff?
Mr. Chair, if there's no discussion, it seems fairly straightforward to me. This is Carl, and I would move approval of this scope change.
All right, thank you, Carl. Carl motions. Do we have a second?
Maddie Dahlheimer, Washington County, second.
All right, thank you, Maddie. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
This is Jason from Hennepin.
Yeah, Jason, go for it.
I just want to point out, I think it's table 1 under the staff analysis section. It provides a breakdown of the costs or estimated costs of the scope proposed to be removed. I think this and other scope change requests are going to be helpful data points for our policy work groups as we revisit the scope change and federal funds reallocation policies. So it seems like there's good support from funding and programming to approve the scope change request, and we have some cost information as a good example of these types of situations we'll likely encounter in the future. That's all.
All right, thank you, Jason. Any final additional discussion before we move towards roll call votes? Okay, seeing none, I will turn over to staff for voting.
All right, Jerry OJ, Anoka County.
Aye.
Darren Milkey, Carver County.
Aye.
Do we have anyone from Dakota County who's joined us? Right. Jason Piper, Hennepin County.
Aye.
You, Adam Jessen, Scott County.
Aye.
Thank you. Maddie Dahlheimer, Washington County.
Aye.
Carl Keel, Bloomington.
Aye.
Robert Ellis, Eden Prairie.
Aye.
Jim Kozlucher, Fridley. Sorry, Jim, I didn't catch it if you said something. Okay, we'll come back. Paul, Omi from Lakeville, have you joined the call? Nathan Coster, Minneapolis Engineering.
Aye.
Michael Thompson, Plymouth.
Aye.
Ann Weber, St. Paul Engineering. Scott Janowiak, Metro Transit.
Aye.
Heidi Scholl, Suburban Transit.
Aye.
DNR, Nancy, have you joined us? Okay. Mike Samuelson, MnDOT Bike and Ped.
Aye.
Aaron Tagg, MnDOT Metro District.
Aye.
Colleen Brown, MnDOT State Aid.
Aye.
You Innocent, AO, MPCA, have you joined? Okay, Cole Henniker, MTS.
Aye.
And Elaine Kutsuko, Staff Coordinator.
Aye.
Okay, I'm just gonna circle back to Jim. From Fridley, are you on? Were you able to unmute? Okay. Well, with the votes we have, chair motion passes.
All right, great. Thank you, Bradley. So that passes. We'll move on to the second item of business, which is the scope change request and tip amendment for the Inver Grove Heights curb ramp reconstruction project. Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you'll notice that this, unlike the other two actions, this one does include a tip amendment, which is, we don't always have to do that. It depends on the timing of the project and what's changing. But in this case, this is a 2024 project where a tip amendment is needed as well. So the process here would be that tab, the scope change request goes to tab. The tip amendment continues on under the council, where it would be approved in probably February of 2024. So that the city of Inver Grove Heights requests a scope change to remove 4 of the 30 curb ramps it had in this project, an ADA curb ramp project, that they were awarded $250,240 for in the 2020 solicitation for this year, 2024. It was in the pedestrian facilities application category. The application was awarded to replace 30 pedestrian curb ramps within the city. The city is requesting removal of 4 of the ramps from the project following completion of 2 other projects that they've had. One of the projects completed the 2 ramps, kind of like we saw in the last application. Upon completing the other project, the city determined that removing the ramps is actually safer than completing the project. So what we have now is 4 out of 30 not being completed, 2 because they've already been completed, and 2 because they're not going to be completed. So it's a little different than we had last time and provides a little bit of nuance when it comes to the funding. But given that all the projects in this category, pedestrian facilities, were funded, and that it's a relatively small piece coming out of the project, staff recommends approval without examining the scoring in any way. With the 2 ramps that were not completed, the cost of that would be roughly $16,682 federal. So the options in theory would be to let them retain all their federal funding, or to remove that amount of money from their project, which is a discussion you can have. I imagine this might not be worth the effort, but that's what some of the but we don't quite have as much precedent for that as we do for some of the other things that we've done. So with that, I'd stand for questions, and just like the last one, I believe we have folks here representing the project. Oh, and to add on, I would say whatever you decide to do with the scope change request would be reflected in the TIP amendment, which I believe shows all the federal funding retained. Uh-oh, it's not even attached. Well, you would recommend approval of a TIP amendment that would reflect that, and I will get that attached for the next item.
All right, thank you, Joe. Anything that the applicant wants to add to Joe's overview?
Thank you, Chair and staff. This is Paul Merkowitz from Inver Heights. Everything you said is correct. 2 ramps, it is safer to remove since they led to nowhere. The other 2 ramps were completed under a prior project. I will request that we retain the 16,682 in federal funds simply because our costs have increased. And in other areas where we're retaining the ped ramps, we're also adding, whether it's city or participatory, we're adding refuge for ped crossings in a median island area that currently, under the current configuration, they pass in front of the median island, so we're increasing the size and expanding the safety component there. With that, if there's any questions, I can answer others.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Any questions for Paul or Joe?
Chair, this is Jason with Hennepin County.
Yeah, Jason.
Joe, could we navigate to page 7 of 10 for a visual? But just wondering if the applicant could share. I believe this roadway was resurfaced, this Carmen Avenue or 5th Avenue. Can Inver Grove Heights confirm that that crosswalk was not repainted after the resurfacing?
Yes, Paul Berkowitz here again. That crosswalk was not repainted. We make it a practice not to paint crosswalks that do not have, are either not at an intersection or do not have a landing spot. I believe that, well, that was actually removed as well. So neither side of the road had a crossing point.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. Any other questions?
Chair, I had a similar question because I was just looking at the application because I went to Street View and it looks like there's still a crosswalk and signage as of 2022. So I just be curious, like if we're asking to remove the budget, but it looks like the improvements are still there in 2022, or maybe I'm reading the application incorrectly or the action incorrectly.
Hold 1 second, please. I believe the Street View data is outdated. I believe it was, do you know the month on that?
It says December of 2022. If it's right across from like the strip mall and Carmen Court, I can't see because there's snow covering, but it looks like the ramps were removed from the image.
It would be. Hold a second.
All right, I think the point is why you're looking. Nathan, you just have the concern that there shouldn't be a painted crosswalk leading to a barrier curb with no ADA ramp. So I assume that's your point.
Well, if we're talking about retaining the funds, but the applicant says it's no longer needed and they were removed, but then we're still having like the like elements in the street, I guess like I had a hard time following that story.
Yep.
So,
Or maybe I'm just it's like the outdated imagery.
so is it possible for me to share my screen?
Joe, do you want to?
See what happens if you try. I'll unshare for a bit.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
So this is our program we use, Nearmap. It provides more updated information. These are the two ped ramps that were removed and the crossing. This is the new pavement with no crosswalks. This right here is a bus stop, so it is not a crosswalk. It does not cross. But
Okay, great.
Sure, this makes sense. Sorry, thanks for clarification. Just thought that'd be helpful.
you bet. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try to stop sharing now.
All right, Paul, you're 1-for-1 on answering the hard-hitting questions. So we'll see.
All right.
See if we got any more questions or discussion. If not, this item will need another a motion in a second.
This is Cole Henniker, Mr. Chair. If I have a question.
Yep, sorry, I missed. Okay, I see we have Cole and then Carl will go to you after Cole. Cole?
Yeah, and you might, I don't want to say you have to reshare, but one of the things that I noticed when looking at the project area was that it is a bus route, and as you noted, there's a transit stop right at this location, and there's a location further north on what I think is S Street. You have to help me out there.
Could be Fifth.
Okay. What is the nearest crossing then that is ADA compliant? Is it that half block north? Or is there that one? It looked like based on old images that was not ADA compliant. So is that one of the intersections that was improved?
The intersection that was improved is at Fifth. Well, all right. So West South Street, which turns into South Street and Fifth Avenue South and Fifth Avenue South. So it's at the crux of South St. Paul and here, I'll share it again.
Yeah, I think that's the intersection I'm talking about. So as long as that one was improved, I think it's okay, but it is helpful.
Sorry.
You know, when we're seeing this kind of change where infrastructure is not being built, that we know like what is the nearest crossing, if they're eliminating one, just so that we can kind of verify that people can still, you know, do the kind of trips they want to do based on the scope change. So I think that that's something we should always cover if there's some sort of piece removed, is how is the maneuver that people would want to do still happening.
Okay. Is there any adjustments I need to make as a result of your question?
No, I think, well, maybe you just want to bring it up on the map again, just to be clear to folks what we're talking about and where the nearest intersection that people can make an ADA compliant crossing would be. Because I think I understand what you're saying, but.
So the original crosswalks were down here, located across from the strip mall. The pedestrians now travel north to this intersection to cross either this way or this way. This intersection here is actually South St. Paul. And there are some improvements over on the bus pad over here too, and shelter. But that's beside the point. That this is where they would cross.
Yeah, it looks like it's a couple 100 feet, which seems reasonable.
All right, any more questions, Cole?
Good, thanks.
Carl?
So when I look at this, it kind of in my head, the logic I'm saying is that there were elements removed from the project that weren't built on another project. So a reduction in federal funds would be reasonable. But I think also that point is is this a de minimis amount and really not worth the bother of reducing it, which I would think that probably is the case. And this is a question for Joe. In the past, we had a conversation. Do you recall how large an amount of money we consider to be de minimis, or is that?
We really haven't been able to pin that down. I think we actually did bring a potential change to tab once with something like 50,000 or something. They didn't like it, not because of the amount, but because there wasn't really a rationale for it. So we've never really defined it. It's something we might define in that other process that's going on, but to this point, it's really undefined.
So, Mr. Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Yes, I appreciate your leadership, Carl. Go for it.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve this scope change with no reduction in federal funds. Again, determining that 16,000 is de minimis.
All right, thank you. We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Jason with Hennepin will second.
All right, Jason with Hennepin County seconds. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Right, hearing none, we'll go to roll call.
Jerry OJ?
Aye.
Darren Melke, Carver County?
Aye.
Jason Piper, Hennepin County?
Aye.
Adam Justin, Scott County?
Aye.
Maddie Dahlheimer, Washington County?
Aye.
Carl Keel, Bloomington?
Aye.
Robert Ellis, Eden Prairie?
Aye.
Jim Coes Lucher, Fridley? Couldn't hear you, Jim, so you can maybe type in the chat again if that works for you. Minneapolis Engineering, Nathan Koster?
Aye.
Michael Thompson, Plymouth?
Aye.
And Weber, St. Paul Engineering?
Aye.
Scott Janowiak, Metro Transit?
Aye.
Heidi Scholl, Suburban Transit?
Aye.
Mike Samuelson, MnDOT Bike and Ped?
Aye.
Aaron Tagg, MnDOT Metro District?
Aye.
Colleen Brown, MnDOT State Aid?
Aye.
Cole Henniker, MTS?
Aye.
And Elaine Kutsukos, Tab Coordinator.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion passes. Jim, I didn't see your vote. If you could put it in the chat, or if you can unmute so I can record, but otherwise we should be.
This is Nancy Spooner Walsh. I joined late.
Hi, Nancy. Was your
So I
vote?
would vote aye. Sorry.
Thanks. Is there anyone else that I missed who might have joined a little later? Okay. Chair, motion passes.
All right, thank you, Bradley. So that passes. The third and final item of business today is the scope change request for St. Louis Parks, Cedar Lake Road and Louisiana Avenue improvements. I'll turn it, I think this one goes over to Robbie.
Actually, Chair, I'll be doing it. We kind of both could have had our names on that prepared by line, so
Okay.
Robbie will get the next one that's hopefully a little less complicated. So this one will be the most complicated of the three by a long shot, I think. So this one is complicated by a couple of things. First off, the project is currently going through a scope change process, or not a scope change, a tip amendment process as we speak. It's really more of a housekeeping item where elements of projects are being put into the correct years and things like that. And therefore, we don't have a tip amendment now to reflect this. We will present a tip amendment as a streamlined, probably in February, to reflect whatever decision is made by tab. So from your end, it doesn't really matter that much, but it's kind of a strange time and apparently a busy time for this project. But this project, whatever comes of this discussion, doesn't really impact the tip amendment that's currently going through, as I understand it. So the city of St. Louis Park is requesting a scope change to remove dedicated cycle track improvements from Louisiana Avenue and provide parallel alternative routes on Hampshire Avenue South and Pennsylvania Avenue South for its Cedar Lake Road and Louisiana Avenue Improvements Project. In the 2022 solicitation, the city was awarded $7 million, and this is in the roadway reconstruction and modernization category. The application was awarded to modernize Louisiana Avenue and Cedar Lake Road by adding a roundabout at its intersection, and then added other things like separated bike lanes, upgrading sidewalks, and improving ADA access. So we did look at the scoring in this one, and we haven't done a lot of that in recent years. We don't try to precisely determine what a score would have been given the impossibility of such a thing. But we do take a look at some of the measures where that may have been impacted by the proposed change. So in the original version, you had a fairly consistent line of pedestrian bicycle access throughout Louisiana Avenue, and you're breaking that up particularly for bikes here. And so if this was the original application, equity or housing may have had a small impact. We kind of judged it as a no impact, though the 193 points that, or I'm sorry, the 93 out of 110 points that they scored in transit bike ped elements and connections, that was scored probably, on a project that had very good connection being made for bikes and peds, and they're definitely diminishing that a bit, and maybe also a little bit with the pedestrian crash reduction. But again, we don't consult the scores on these kind of things. These are just judgments being made of sort of where the project's being diminished. So they scored 541 points, which is 49 points ahead of the highest scoring unfunded project. So our conclusion is that while the project as proposed for amendment would likely not have scored as high overall as the original, it's not really possible to assert what would have happened or if it would have been funded. So the multimodal, and so based on that, we are recommending approval. And then funding wise, wait, where'd that go? Oh, we don't have a table. So funding wise, they are removing roughly $290,000 worth of work to make this happen. The removal of what they're removing will not be done elsewhere. So the options are to retain the full award or to return $169,389. That's the federal cost of the removed elements to the region for redistribution. And again, it's not being redone. So with that, it's kind of a complex one. With that, I'm here for questions, as are, I think, 2 or 3 people representing the project.
All right, thank you, Joe. Do we have any representatives of the project that want to add to that?
Thank you, Chair. This is Joe Shamla, City of St. Louis Park. Did an extensive community outreach on this project. The original indication was that we were going to have cycle tracks on both of these corridors. After meeting with the community and doing a lot of engagement, there are a lot of trees along Louisiana Avenue, and in order to preserve a significant portion of the canopy, we were unable to get the bike facility or install the cycle track in some areas, as we would have had a large amount of tree reduction. We also looked at crossing 394 if there was a bike facility here, and currently there isn't room on the road to cross 394 at Louisiana Avenue with bike facility. There are 2 pedestrian / bike crossings east and west of here, which is how we came up with the alternate route to do the best we could with saving the canopy. So our goal was to get a bike facility on here and save trees. Unfortunately, we couldn't do both. So we kind of landed here, but we are available with for any questions that may come up.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that overview. So it sounds like you did quite an extensive public outreach process with all the residents along the corridor here.
That is correct. Large portion of our community was invited because of the regional nature of Louisiana Avenue and Cedar Lake Road.
Great. All right. Any questions for Joe or the applicant?
Chair Maddie Dahlheimer at Washington County.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 questions. As far as Louisiana Avenue goes, so the dedicated bike or bike lanes are not going to be constructed there. Are there still going to be sidewalk improvements or sidewalk connectivity on there that's being improved? And then the second question is, are there any improvements that are planned, whether that's striping or signing or really anything on Pennsylvania Avenue and Hampshire, like the 2 new routes? Are there any changes with that planned with the new route?
So that's a great question. So currently there is a sidewalk along the west side of Louisiana. Upon completion of construction, there will be a sidewalk along the entire east side. So we're improving connectivity there. We are also adding a trail for portion of the way on the southwest corner of Louisiana to provide more bike access past the fire station where there was an area that we didn't have tree impact. It could connect to another trail system. So we are putting trails in where we can. We also have a trail going in up for the first block up by Wayzata Boulevard. So areas that we wouldn't impact a lot of trees, we are doing what we can to support bikes. And then the east and west, or the alternate routes will have signage and share the road facilities. So there will be bike infrastructure there. It's just not as robust as a cycle track would have been.
Thank you.
Joe, can you clarify, can you confirm what I believe in these maps, which is that these blue dashed lines are sort of the alternate routes and for the bike trails or the bike paths? So this one here.
So the blue are the alternate routes, and that's where it would be share the road. Like if you look down at where you were pointing by Cedar Lake Road, that still is a cycle track down there. And then if you look at the east side of Northside Park, that's where our fire station is. That'll be a trail system. And then up on the north, there's also a trail for the first block to Wayzata Boulevard. So yes, the dash lines would be share the road facility, the blue dash.
And members, I know this gets a little bit cumbersome because there's 4 different sections, but they do give us a description of the changes in these 4 sections of varying lengths. But I myself had to go back and forth to the map a little bit.
Any other questions? Cole?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Joe, can you talk about the facility status between Hampshire and Pennsylvania and Louisiana on the Wayzata frontage road area? You know, how could people get back to Louisiana if they use those alternate routes? Particularly, I assume there's some degree of points awarded for access to the park and ride that we do through the regional solicitation. So just wondering if you can talk about that 2 or 3 block stretch on each side of Louisiana, right near 394.
So there is a plan to connect those in the future. There are some facilities there, but it's more of like a sidewalk at this point. But we would be looking at future connections to connect. We would like to put a bike facility along Wayzata Boulevard, and that's in our CIP, but that was not included on this submittal. So there will be connections to those facilities.
So just to clarify, right now there's a sidewalk probably on one side of the street for those sections.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And I just found out the bikeways in that section is 2027 is when that will be constructed. So it is in our CIP.
All right. Cole, any other questions or follow-up?
No, just I think that's really important that they're committed to those and that they're in the CIP. I think that's a little bit, better feeling. It seems like, obviously it's going to be 2 years later, but if this is the long-term solution, I think that's a little bit more comfort with that than thinking the connection is going to be on a sidewalk, on a busy street long-term.
Yeah. All right, we have Mike Samuelson.
Chair, I have a comment and then a question, I think more for council staff than for city staff here. So comment just being that, these two ped bridges that are being connected to, obviously they're over 394, which is a MnDOT facility. And I think coming out of the new Minship, we anticipate having additional funds for ped bridge improvements. And so just kind of a note that for this project in particular, but also for other projects that are looking to connect to those ped bridges, just a reminder for our local partners to reach out to MnDOT staff so that we can help facilitate those connections across the trunk highways. And then the question I had for council staff is, just noting that we've got the RBTN along Louisiana, and that, we're now talking about routing bikes on parallel facilities. What's the process and kind of timing for updating the RBTN in the section, not just in the St. Louis Park section where the project is, but also, north of 394. Presumably we wouldn't want to continue the RBTN on Louisiana, because then we're just kind of having this jagged route. So just kind of curious if there's any thoughts on updating that routing system just based on what we're seeing here.
Thanks, Mike and members. So I had some discussions with Steve Elmer about the project, and from my standpoint, the RBTN wasn't a big part of my review because Steve was basically saying that Louisiana Avenue right now is a corridor, and that going on either side of the corridor by 4 blocks actually doesn't take away from its effectiveness as fulfilling the RBTN. That said, we didn't discuss what that means for crossing 394. So that's a question I'm going to pass on to him, I think. I don't know if Cole has any better ideas than that, but that's a process from this point on, I'm not really sure about.
Yeah, and I can just note, Mike, that I think we will look at this as somewhat of the alignment designating process within a corridor, which is usually a fairly minor update to the RBTN that we can do administratively. But we'll get an answer and follow up with Steve specifically on the timing of that. But he's right, in terms of scoring, it wouldn't have mattered because it's within the shed of the corridor itself.
Yeah, and this was less a scoring question. It's more kind of a process question. So appreciate the update from both of you. Thanks.
And the alternate route on Pennsylvania, I mean, that leads to a pedestrian crossing over 394 that's ADA compliant, correct? Isn't there one right in that area? I thought there was one.
I'm going to answer that one, Michael. Deb Heiser, Engineering Director at the City of St. Louis Park. Yes, there is a pedestrian bridge located just to the west at that location, and actually the crossing. And then there's also one just to the east of Hampshire. So those are existing pedestrian bridges at those locations. And if you look at Strava heat map, they're used a lot. Some very comfortable all ages and all abilities ways to cross.
Okay, yeah, I just point that out because these alternate share routes seem like very logical paths to use to reach or to get over the barrier of 394. So, okay. Thank you, Deb. Director of Engineering for St. Louis Park. So, all right, any other discussion or questions? Jim, okay, we got a couple more. Jim Kozlucher, and then we'll go to Nathan Coster after that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, can you hear me? I'm hoping my audio is coming in now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. So maybe not, I don't mean to like belabor the discussion on something that's kind of irrelevant, but just curious if the city has plans as these trees mature and age out, you know, would there be a future alignment along here at some future generation of the, you know, of the corridor?
We've actually been discussing that. Great question, Jim. We have a couple corridors like this that these trees were planted in 91 when the street was last reconstructed. And so we've been talking out perhaps as they age out, if they need to be removed, perhaps this is a no plant corridor to work through that. We have not made that decision yet, but we've been discussing it.
All right, does that answer your question, Jim?
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, we'll move on to Nathan.
Chair, I want to recognize staff and the St. Louis Park for putting this together. I could definitely see how challenging this was, and in my limited time looking at this, I can definitely see how constrained of a corridor this was. And piecing together the puzzle is bikes are being accommodated through
Hey, Nathan, you're breaking up, so we can't really hear you that well.
Trail. I think that's a technical design to see trail. I think that's a technical restraint due to grading right away. I think I'll just say, if I keep it short, I support this because it seems like they've done a really good technical job and accommodating multimodal accommodations as best as possible. Sorry for my internet connection.
All right, no problem. Thank you for the comment, Nathan. Okay, I don't see any additional hands raised, so this also will need a motion in a second.
Mr. Chair, this is Carl from Bloomington. As I see this, that our discussion and the scoring analysis showed that this project would still likely have been funded. And it looks like there is a significant component that has been taken out of the project. So I think it is appropriate to reduce the federal funds. So I would make a motion to approve the scope change with a reduction in federal funds in the amount shown in the staff report, which is what, $169,000.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Nancy Spooner Walsh. I'll second.
Thank you, Nancy. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Right, seeing none, we'll go to roll call.
Terry OJ?
Aye.
Darren Milkey?
Aye.
Darren. Jason Piper?
Aye.
Adam Jessen?
Aye.
Patty Dahlheimer?
Aye.
Carl Keel?
Aye.
Robert Ellis?
Aye.
Jim Kozlucher?
Aye.
Nathan Coster?
Aye.
Michael Thompson?
Aye.
Ann Weber?
Aye.
Scott Janowiak?
Aye.
Heidi Scholl?
Aye.
So you've said something, Heidi, I didn't catch it.
I did. She said aye.
Oh, okay, thank you. Nancy Spooner Walsh, DNR. You, Mike Samuelson.
Aye.
Jim, did I skip you? I see your hand went up.
Oh, sorry about that. I just had it up from before.
Okay, sorry. Aaron Tagman, Metro District.
Aye.
Colleen Brown.
Aye.
Bull Henniker.
Aye.
And Elaine Kutsukos.
Aye.
Chair motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So that,
Thank you everyone for your time this afternoon, and have a great rest of the year. I guess we got 2 weeks left. Thank you.
thank you, Deb. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. So Carl, you were on a roll. You made all 3 motions. So I feel like I need to give you a prize or something.
Thanks, sir. I'll make another motion if we want, whatever it is.
Before you do we have any members that have any information or other business items they want to bring up before we adjourn here?
Say, Chair, this is Cole. I didn't want to slow down the business, but I did have a question about that second scope change. You know, it was really interesting to me because it was a local city street where 2 sides of the street were 2 different cities. And it seemed like the ADA improvements were happening on one side, but maybe not coordinated and concurrent on the other side. And I should have asked this when South St. Paul was also in the meeting, but I'm just curious how cities handle that when I think about how we're using active transportation funding in the future. You know, giving a grant to one city on a street that borders 2 borders where, you know, realistically we should be addressing ADA on both sides of the street at the same time. So I'm just curious if other cities, particularly cities where they don't, you know, where maybe this supporting infrastructure is split in responsibility, how they handle that historically in terms of coordination.
Yeah, no, great question, Cole. I think most cities where they do have border streets, typically one city will take a lead on the improvement, and there's a joint powers agreement where the other city will be a partner but will contribute financially. But typically those improvements are all coordinated and lined up through a singular project. So that's my history with border street projects. But I guess if one city doesn't like the other city, maybe, you know, they just build to the half of the road. But typically common sense prevails. But I don't know if any other members want to jump in and share on that, on your question.
Mr. Chair, Jim with the City of Fridley, I can tell you from our experience with the recently constructed regional solicitation project with the City of Columbia Heights that, yeah, that's the best way to go. And actually, you know, even before, you know, applying that, you know, there's a decision made on who's going to lead is best, really. You know, you're trying to coordinate the improvements and not leave a ped ramp that goes out to nowhere on the other side. And you do have to collaborate quite a bit. So we did finish a project this year too with Mounds View, kind of similar in nature. And you know, the improvements went on. This is a non-federal project, but the improvements went on their side of the roadway, and it was just agreed to that it made more sense.
Yeah, great. Elaine, you wanted to weigh in too?
Yeah, I would just say as part of the solicitation process, one of the qualifying requirements is that the project will be built to ADA standards. So it would have to be across all of it, not just parts of it.
Does that answer your question, Cole?
Yeah, maybe this one's unique in that there isn't a pedestrian facility on the South St. Paul side, which is, you know, in my opinion, problematic. But, you know, my guess is that the cities did not look at it, the roadway, and say, we need to build a pedestrian sidewalk on both sides of the street. They just looked at upgrading the existing facilities. And so it seemed like a gap, not a criticism of anybody and, you know, anybody that worked on that project, more so just, is that something we need to emphasize more in the solicitation of addressing, you know, the gaps across 2 communities at the same time. So I think more of a future consideration and something to think about.
All right.
Especially since it's a transit route. That's what kind of popped out to me. You know, you have people needing to cross the street to board buses, and that seems like a gap.
So even within a city, a project may only have a sidewalk on one side or a trail.
Yeah, okay, good for future discussion. Point well taken there, Cole. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, any other business? Seeing none, we will move to adjourn here at 2:05. Thank you everybody for your time and enjoy the holidays. Thank you all.
Bye-bye, everybody.